World champions, Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't say I heard the reaction. Yeah, it hurt. I'll be honest, Chap. It hurt.
Feel the reaction that we got from the fans for him. That hurt more than anything.
August 24th, 2019 will mark a day in history that no Colts fan will ever forget. It was the day Andrew Luck retired from the NFL. Andrew Luck will forever be an Indianapolis Colt. However, I am very disappointed in the way our fan base reacted to the news. I find that very disrespectful and rude to somebody that gave us so much. Andrew Luck, if you're hearing this, on behalf of the entire fan base and everyone that booed you, I sincerely apologize. I understand that the timing wasn't the greatest, but I still don't think it was right to boo him because it would have made the decision a lot harder than it already was. You got to understand he chose his health over football. Somebody told me that they were mad because he took an opportunity away from another player, and that's an understandable reason to be angry. But I personally feel that he would have only given opportunity to somebody to be a backup quarterback, and it would have taken away the extra reps that Jacoby had with the team. So there's a good argument in both scenarios. Maybe Luck wanted to retire at the end of 2017, but Chris Ballard and Frank Reich wouldn't let him. What if they told Andrew Luck to wait until he was 100% sure he wanted to do this? In the press conference, Andrew Luck said that his injury wasn't improving, and that was a big reason why he is retiring. There's fans calling Andrew Luck soft. Maybe he is soft, but you don't know how severe his injury is. I bet you all those people doesn't have a job as brutal as football, because if they did, then they would understand Luck's perspective. I feel like nobody wants to look toward the future now since Andrew Luck retired. So I'm going to finish off this topic with the Andrew Luck moment of the week. It was in week 13 of 2012. The Lions versus the Colts. Colts ended up with the victory with a 4th and 10 touchdown pass to Donnie Avery. For the next 12 months to a year, we're going to hear a bunch of rumors about Andrew Luck returning and who we're going to sign. But I believe in Jacoby. I believe in Chad Kelly. I believe we have the quarterback of the future on our team. But if we don't, then we're probably going to draft the quarterback out of the draft next year. But if Chris Ballard and Frank Reich does sign somebody or trade for somebody, it's going to be a young player. It's not going to be a veteran. It's not going to be Colin Kaepernick crap. It's going to be a young player that has many years ahead of him. On this episode, I really want to talk about Jacoby Brissett because he's going to be the starter this year. Here's a fun fact about Jacoby Brissett. Since Andrew Luck retired 11-0 against the Titans, Jacoby's 3-0 against the Texans. Yes, I will say it again. Jacoby Brissett is 3-0 against the Texans in his career. That is 2 in Indy and 1 in New England. There's a lot of doubters out there. There's doubters in Jacoby and there's doubters in the Colts without Andrew Luck. Look, the Colts only lost one player. Yes, I understand he's the centerpiece of the team. I think Chris Ballard said a little something like, this year is not 2017. I believe in everything Chris Ballard does. In 2017, Jacoby Brissett got sacked 52 times. That's more times than Andrew Luck has ever got sacked in his career. Jacoby Brissett is built like Ben Roethlisberger. Before all you guys jump the gun, I'm not comparing his talent to Ben Roethlisberger. But I am comparing his size to Ben Roethlisberger. The one thing I see Brissett can do maybe better than Ben Roethlisberger is run the ball. With Jacoby being 6'4" and 235 pounds, it's hard for defenders to tackle him. He can break away from sacks and make plays. Chris Ballard traded to get Jacoby Brissett a couple games in the season. In the preseason, Jacoby Brissett was learning a whole different playbook than what he had to when he came over. Jacoby Brissett also only had a couple players to pass to. He had T.Y. Hilton and Jack Doyle. 2017 was a season where there was a lot of passes dropped. So without an offensive line, barely knowing the playbook, and a couple people to pass to, you're judging Jacoby Brissett off of 2017. People got hurt a lot in 2017 as well. So Jacoby Brissett was playing with multiple different offensive linemen. However, I do encourage you to go back and look at some of his highlights because Jacoby Brissett was a stud. With Jacoby Brissett behind center, I believe that we are going to the Super Bowl this year. Call me crazy, but before Andrew Luck retired, there's a lot of people that predicted us to go to the Super Bowl, predicted us to go to the playoffs. But after he retired, people started doubting. You can't doubt a team that was already built. Someone's going to argue that the team was built around Andrew Luck, which is true. But why do you think Chris Ballard traded to get Jacoby Brissett? because Brissett can play with the same players and the same offensive line that Andrew Luck did. Also, Brissett was brought in the same time it was getting built. Jacoby Brissett now has 2 years learning our playbook. A lot of people may forget, but he came from New England, so he got to learn from Tom Brady and Bill Belichick for an entire year. In 2019, Jacoby Brissett is going to surprise many people. No matter how good Jacoby Brissett is, he's going to make mistakes. Just don't dwell on it. And he has the team of the future to back him up. Let's look at the future of our team. We got a running game that's really underrated, with running backs that are very young and talented. Last year, Marlin Mack had 908 yards in only 12 games. If Mack played the 4 games he missed, and he'd rushed for at least 23 yards each game, he would have had a 1,000-yard season. That's why I believe if Marlon Mack stays healthy this year, he will have a 1,000-yard season. There's people that don't think Marlon Mack's elite. But honestly, not every player becomes elite after their first season in the NFL. Sometimes it takes time before they become elite. But you can hate on Marlon Mack all you want. That doesn't change the fact that he's a really good running back. Last year was his first season as the starting running back. Someone told me that anybody can run really well behind our line. Sometimes even good running backs need a good offensive line. We are not the Dallas Cowboys who runs the ball over 150 times a game. Yes, I know Coach Reich wants to put emphasis on the running game this year, but it's probably going to be 50-50 run-pass since we got a bunch of receivers that can catch now. And Nyheim Hines makes a good 1-2 punch with Marlon Mack. Hines had more receptions than any rookie in Colts history last year. He had 63 receptions. That's only 13 less than what T.Y. Hilton had last year. As much as I like Mack, Hines is a playmaker as well. With Hines and Mack in our backfield, our running game is going to be unstoppable this year. There's no doubt about that. Defenses won't be able to only game plan against the run. They'll also have to game plan against the pass. We have 2 really good running backs that can run and that can catch. We also got some good running backs that are backing them up. But we probably will see limited time for them on the field. But that doesn't mean that they can't impact the game. The last really good running back we had was Edgerrin James. Joseph Adai was average at best, and Dominic Rhodes wasn't on our team long enough to prove that he was really good. Frank Gore came over at the end of his career, and he only lasted 2 years. 2019, we're going to have a running game that we've never had before, and I can promise you that. Our running game is going to prove wonders this year, but our defense is definitely the best we've ever had. Yes, we've had great players and probably great years, but I don't think we've had such a depth in defense as we do this year. Anthony Walker is going into his 3rd year, and he's the leader of the defense. I honestly believe his season last year was overlooked just because of Darius Leonard's outstanding season. But the dynamic duo of Anthony Walker and Darius Leonard is a lot bigger than any other duo in the league today. Anthony Walker had the 2nd most tackles on the team at 103. Someone's probably going to say something about comparing them to Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis, but the difference is Robert Mathis and Dwight Freeney went after the quarterback, and for the longest time they were defensive linemen, not linebackers. Anthony Walker and Darius Leonard, they go after the ball, the runner, and the receiver. Their type of play does not require them to go after the quarterback as often as it did for Robert Mathis and Dwight Freeney. Chris Ballard also added another piece to our defense this offseason by signing Justin Houston. He may not be as effective as he was in Kansas City, but he's a veteran that comes with knowledge to teach younger players. I believe he will impact the game enough to win us games and help us go to the Super Bowl. One of my favorite rookies last year that's been having a pretty good preseason so far is Kamoko Toure. He can learn a lot off of Houston. I can't wait to see how improved our secondary is going to be this year. It seems like every year there's always injuries. One of my favorite guys who got hurt last year was Matthias Farley. He really knows how to impact the game, so I am excited to see him back on the field. I believe Kenny Moore is probably the best cornerback in the entire league. He had 3 interceptions, 1 forced fumble, and 11 pass deflections. That's the reason why quarterbacks don't like to throw it his way. But you also got to give some credit to Pierre Desir, who shut down DeAndre Hopkins last year. I have a feeling we're going to beat the Texans twice this year, at least. We got the Texans owner, T.Y. Hilton. We got a quarterback that's undefeated against the Texans. And we got DeAndre Hopkins' dad, Pierre Desir. So the 2019 Indianapolis Colts will be the 2019 Super Bowl champions. Believe it or not, I believe it. If you're a Colts fan, you should believe it too. When opponents play against us, they're going to be running into a brick wall in our defense. And our offense is going to run over defenses like there ain't no tomorrow. You heard it here first, folks. Super Bowl champions, the Colts. Dakota Burrows predicts it. I understand that everything I say may or may not come true, but at least I believe in what I stand for. I believe in the Colts. I believe in Frank Reich. I believe in Chris Ballard. I believe in Jacoby Brissett. I believe in Marlin Mack. If you disagree with me, then fine. That's your opinion, not mine. This is the very first edition of the Indianapolis Colts Journey to the Super Bowl podcast. If there are certain topics you want me to cover, I highly recommend you to comment. And I do apologize that this podcast is kind of all over the place right now. But the whole idea of this episode of the podcast was to inform you guys my input on the Indianapolis Colts 2019 season, Andrew Luck, and Jacoby Brissett. The whole idea of putting the highlights on there is to be different than a lot of other podcasts. I know when I'm watching podcasts, I kind of get bored after a while because I'm watching a screen of nothing. So I wanted to put something on the screen, not just to grab your attention, but for you to understand my point of view of the players that I'm talking about. If you do disagree with me on some points, I would like you to comment and let me know and explain yourself to me. And I'll try to understand your point of view, and then I'll give you my point of view. Again, I apologize that this podcast was kind of all over the place. Next time it won't be like that. That was the very first edition of the Indianapolis Colts Journey to the Super Bowl podcast. See you next time.